9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Headline out of the New York Times, brace yourself. JD Vance says he hopes his wife embraces Christianity.
Does she know this?
Shocking! Yeah, that's what happens when a spouse becomes a Christian. It's like in the Bible that we hope go forth and make all disciples. You would think that maybe the person you're sleeping next to would fall under that category of trying to make them disciples of Christ too. But the New York Times trying to make a big story out of a nothing burger. But I did find the issue fascinating because JD Vance did not become a Catholic until 5 years after his marriage. Got married in 2014, becomes Catholic in 2019. And during a speech with regards to his wife, who I believe is Hindu, or at least Hindu light. I don't know if she's all into it, but he says he wishes that she would embrace Christianity, which is what he should be doing as a Christian. But this has become a controversy in the New York Times. But it raises a larger question as to, can you have an interfaith marriage? Now, I clearly I don't think JD Vance should divorce his wife upon becoming a Christian. I'm a Christian, you're not. See ya. No, that's not how it works. But prior to marriage, no, I do not think you should get married to somebody that shares a different faith. Because it is so absolutely critical. The morals, the foundation, the beliefs, to the way you're going to frame up your marriage, how you're going to operate in your marriage, and how you're going to raise your kids. And if you're not on the same page with regards to the ultimate questions of the universe, then I don't know how you can survive. And I'm not saying like every little detail within theology you have to agree on, but if you don't have the big things, who is God? How do you be right before that God? If those things aren't framed out and you guys aren't on the same page, I don't think it works. Bill, what do you think?
I think it can be managed, but it makes the relationship more difficult. I know some people in my in my direct family that are in interfaith marriages, have a number of other friends that are, and it is difficult to navigate. It is something that unless the couple navigates very, very early on, it can create problems where that's why I can see some potential tension inside of the Vance household because he came to the faith post-marriage. That's a change. And in my mind, it's the idea of you're somewhat amending the social contract that existed at the beginning.
Correct.
I'm not saying
I agree with that.
I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect or you should or you shouldn't, but based on where they were when they exchanged vows, now, and something like taking on a new faith is an enormous change in the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
So that's why the ones that I have seen make it work are those that have had this conversation early on in the dating relationship. So by the time they get to popping the question, that's settled. That's nothing we have to argue about. They've already decided how this is going to go forward, including how to raise the children.
Correct.
I've seen that. This, adding it differently, when it comes in later, that can be more difficult. And as you know, once you take on a new faith, many times you become more evangelical in your style. And I'm just saying across all faiths. So there's more tension and pressure added inside. Yeah,
definitely with a Christian one.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you are commanded to go forth and make disciples of all nations, which includes the person you're sleeping next to. So you have somebody in the relationship that's now embraced a faith that's going to try to win you over to the faith. And so you're going to have conversations and you're just going to have different values as well. So you're exactly right that the terms of the marriage did change. But as a Christian, you can only get divorced really in two ways. One is if there's infidelity. And then 2, if there's abandonment, and violence would fall under abandonment. So those are the 2 broad categories.
Or if you're really good friends with the Pope, sometimes they'll throw you in an elementary school. Yeah. Or if you're the king, sometimes you can just decide, hey, I'm in charge of the church. I get to divorce whoever I want. So, there's some benefits here. Yeah.
Way to bring in good church history.
Of course.
Fantastic. So
that's why they hated me in church. That's why they hated me in religion class. Hated me because of it.
People are hypocritical? What? Feel free to join the conversation. People are saying it wasn't right for JD Vance to bring this up, but I think he was questioned about it. And he's going to be questioned about it if he runs for president, right? Because he is outspoken about his Catholic faith. He's a convert to it. And how's that dynamic within his marriage? It's a fair question, I think, especially if you're a public figure and you're running for office. I don't think he's out there going giving speeches about how his wife needs to change her faith. So give us a call. What do you think of this issue? 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. Now is time, though, for news and comment with Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Monday. Good morning. Sun is out, partly cloudy and 41, expecting a high of 56 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
Senate record back in September, and it still sits there as their counterproposal. They would spend $1.5 trillion of your taxpayer funds. Included in that is nearly $200 billion of taxpayer funds that they want to use to restore free health benefits to illegal aliens. They want to spend billions in wasteful left-wing spending projects in foreign countries.
And the Schumer shutdown continues. Once again, Speaker Mike Johnson.
On things like LGBTQ plus awareness, in the Horn of Africa, all sorts of things. I could give you a long list, and we've said it here before. They want to spend $500 million to prop up left-leaning news organizations. And shockingly, in that same proposal, as their ransom for reopening the government, they want to cut $50 billion from their rural hospital fund that the Republicans just got signed into law on July 4th.
And the left doesn't care. Democrats, they do not care. Governor Polis celebrating a ruling from 2 federal judges who want the 47 administration to partially fund the SNAP benefits. The state legislature approved a plan to pump in $10 million of state money for SNAP recipients, but lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are concerned that it's not enough. It could all be solved if the lefties, of course, sign the CR. And you can expect more slowdowns and delays along with flight cancellations as air traffic controllers call in sick or work without pay once again. All right, the Broncos in Houston on Sunday, 3 seconds to go, tied at 15. That was after Bo Nix with 2 huge runs. One of them, he got out of the pocket, and then he took off for the first down, a huge play. The other one was a designed run around the left side, and it helped set up this with 3 seconds to play in the game.
For the win for the Broncos. And the kick is good, and the fourth quarter magic remains for Denver. 18-15, Denver with the winner.
And in their orange pants and white jerseys, look good. I would have preferred the throwback orange pants from the 80s, but look good.
Yeah, it was sunset orange. I saw that officially.
Yeah,
sunset orange.
Sunset. Okay,
so
yeah,
got to give it fancy titles, not just. Yeah, it did look good, but I would like the other orange. Yeah, the white and the orange. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, what do you think about the blue on the helmets, Blake? I haven't talked about this.
Okay, so here's the to me the perfect uniform would be the orange pants, and then with the 80s, 70s, 80s look. Okay,
yeah, those big stripes and stuff on the side.
Right, exactly. Everything similar, the numbers, everything. Then the helmet, don't go with the light blue. Go with the dark blue, but with the D in the horse, and then gray face mask, and there you'd have a winner.
That's nice,
right there. Just replace the lighter blue.
Yeah.
Even though it's starting to look good to me now,
It
it's
is.
just
We're
funny
so
how you
old.
start.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I like
you
the
just
blue
go
now.
back. Yeah, now I
Yes.
like it. But the orange pants. Every time I see those, all I think about is Floyd Little. So that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
There's something special about the orange pants. There's also something in me as a little kid watching football that I like the white pants with a colored jersey only because I liked seeing the dirt get on the pants. The idea that it shows me who you're working.
Doubt.
I like the jersey itself when it gets dirty. Yeah, that's nice. But I think you can show more dirt on the pants. There's more of an idea of what's going on. It just kind of
exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it's
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Did you see also NFL record set yesterday?
Oh, you know
Field
what?
goal,
I didn't.
man.
I keep on forgetting.
No, it's okay. Let's talk about that. 68 yards.
68, dude. Freaking yards.
He could have made it from 73.
Oh my God,
that is nuts.
It is insane. Another reason to stop kicking field goals.
Yeah. Or the idea is let's just lean into this thing so we're not stopping the field goals. Let's start making them worth more points. Like in fantasy football.
True.
And I wouldn't do it at 50. 50 is too easy now. I'd start at 60 now. Start at 60 and 70 and start giving you more points for those. Because now you really got to take something into consideration. Do I want to try for the extra points? Because then it's a win-loss ratio. Do I take my kicker and have him kick from 62, get extra points, but if he misses, I give up the ball here. It's much easier if I'm not making extra points to punt. But you give me extra points, maybe I got something there.
Dude, I hear you, but they're just too good. The kickers are too good. I know they miss a lot, but it's going to ruin the game eventually.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be kicking
a bunch of
80-yard
old
field
men
goals.
whining. I feel like I'm listening to the Muppets right now.
I love that.
Guys,
we're Statler and we're Waldorf and Statler. Yes, we are.
Whatever happened to actual football?
Oh, that frog. I don't
Real
trust the
football's
frog.
when the kicker can only kick 40 yards.
And the quarterback can't walk.
No, I think this is just an argument for my rotating goalposts. Or sitting there. That's what we need.
Now that's fine. That's a good idea. But just
Love
sitting
that.
here complaining that the kicker is going to ruin the game.
Yeah, they will. They'll
night.
eventually ruin the entire game.
Jeff, half of what I do in the show is just complain. You're kind of ruining this
Yeah,
stuff for me.
exactly. Same here.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
That's it.
I haven't even started with my complaining today, but you're right.
Yeah.
Here's Bo Nix.
They held him enough times to where we could go do that. And it wasn't pretty, but we knew it wasn't going to be, and it turned into a field position battle there at the end. Like we had talked about all week, it was going to be about field position, and sure enough, it was. And we just made enough explosives there to get 3 points at the end.
He is mature, man. That's awesome. 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And the Broncos have won 6 in a row. And guess what, Broncos fans? You only have to wait about 3.5 days now. About 4 days before the next game kicks off Thursday against the Raiders. Should be fun. Boulder police at Mile High. Boulder police arrested an Arvada man accused of attacking a CU student with a hockey stick. Officers say victim Nathaniel Ellis is a member of the school's Turning Point USA chapter and believes the assault was politically motivated. Ellis was struck from behind while biking near the Eckley building over a week ago. Police identified Taylor Rose through surveillance video and a cell phone recording. A search of his home turned up rollerblades, a hockey stick, and clothing matching the suspect seen in the footage.
I'm definitely calling to ban assault hockey sticks.
Yes. You know what? You're going out on the limb now. I mean, I love it. I love it when you stand out there with a bold statement like that.
That's
I'm
right.
there with
That's right. If one life is saved,
yes. If just one.
ban the assault hockey sticks.
I agree with you. Arizona blew the doors off of CU over the weekend, 52-17. Here's Coach not ready for prime time.
I don't have to explain it. They saw it. See, you got to understand, if you're a dog, you want to come here and right the wrong. If you're a cat, you look at the scoreboard and you run. Which one are you? Dog or cat?
Nasty dog.
He wants the dogs. Bring them. But see, that's all he has is dogs. He has 4-stars and 5-star dogs. But if you don't tackle, and I'm sure they're going to talk about that and do a lot of that this week. Doesn't matter if you're a dog or a cat. You got to tackle. Kings at the Nuggets tonight. Lightning at the Avs tomorrow. Avalanche lead the Western Conference at 7-1. 40 in Centennial. 38 in Golden. 41 in Denver.
Let's go.
Okay. Jeff and Billy. Jeff and Billy continue. Waking up with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's going to be a pretty quiet week of weather here in Denver along the Front Range. The main jet stream is going to ride along the U.S.-Canadian border for the week ahead. This will cause temperatures to bounce around a little bit. We are going to be cooler today, upper 50s to near 60, but warming back to 70 or better for Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we're going to cool off for Thursday, Friday into Saturday as a couple of Pacific fronts will clip the area at the end of the week, but they're likely not going to bring any significant threat for moisture. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. New York Times headline.
It's going to be a
Vance
pretty quiet week of weather here in Denver along the Front Range. The main jet stream is going to
setting off backlash. Oh, no. Vice President JD Vance provoked a broad backlash from people who don't understand Christianity this week after he said that he hoped his wife, Usha Vance, who is of Indian heritage and was raised in a Hindu family, would eventually convert to his own Catholic faith. Oh boy. Sometimes they're just so out of touch with Christianity. It's kind of fun. I think it was, who does the read after, right after the show? He does the little monologue, Bill.
Oh, yeah, brain fart.
Yeah, I know. I'm forgetting it too.
Cal Thomas. Cal Thomas. There we go.
Yes, you're the man.
Now again, I had to look at the list. I didn't know that off the top of my head.
Well, I think I attribute this quote to Cal Thomas, but he said, each morning I read the Holy Bible in the New York Times so I know what both sides are up to, which I think is apropos with this article, because God forbid a converted Catholic might try to convert the rest of his family. Anyways, brings up an interesting point. He says this, JD Vance, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved by in the church? He said during an event at the University of Mississippi on Wednesday in response to a question from the audience, yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. Wow. Shocking and offensive. That didn't stop the New York Times. The comments, which were made in front of thousands of students as part of a Turning Point USA event honoring the slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk, were widely reported by news media outlets and quickly criticized on social media. Beyond partisan salvos, there was also criticism from some Indians and Indian Americans across the political spectrum who said that Mr. Vance was not respecting his wife's religious decisions. Some also said his remarks suggest that Hinduism was inferior at a time when aggressive immigration enforcement has left many South Asian Americans and people of non-Christian faiths feeling uncertain and afraid of their place in American society. The backlash reflected worries by some in the South Asian community over the Trump administration's immigration policies and its embrace of conservative Christian groups. The executive director of a Hindu American foundation described Mr. Vance's remarks as basically saying that my wife, this aspect of her, is just not enough. If you were any ordinary pastor, then whatever, they said. But he's not the pastor-in-chief. He's the vice president wanting to be presidential. Goodness gracious. Well, outside of the New York Times making a mountain out of a molehill, because anybody who lives in a family where you have a faith disparity that takes place particularly if it's a evangelical faith, like Protestantism or Catholicism, they're going to try to convert you. Mormonism, too. They're going to try. This is what those religions do. And so they're going to try to convert you, including the person and people that live in their households. Believe me, my family has heard a lot from me trying to convert them over the years. I had one of those moments of conversion. Like, I can tell you exactly the day that it took place. And I was like on fire for the Lord. And my poor family watches Jeff, who was a drug addict, and maybe not an addict, but a user, drug user, an alcohol consumer in high school, come back all of a sudden like a totally different person, and trying to get my family to understand this. So this is what happens when people convert. And JD Vance gets married in 2014, converts in 2019. Yes, I guarantee you his wife has heard a lot about the Catholic faith in the last year since he converted. I don't think it's grounds for divorce. I don't think it's inappropriate. I think it's pretty standard. And I think the New York Times making a mountain out of a molehill. But with all that said, if you're dating, you better be on the same religious foundation. That is absolutely critical, because these are questions of ultimate importance. I believe that next to choosing to follow Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, who you choose to marry is the second most important decision of your entire life. And if you get that wrong, you get somebody with different values set, it's going to make the marriage, I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's darn near impossible, because you're dealing with questions of who God is, how I'm supposed to act. I mean, this is Ephesians, Bill. Okay? This is the call of the Bible on Christian married couples. And if you don't believe this to be true, this is going to make a lot of things to work through in a counseling session, so to speak. Here's Ephesians 5:22 through 33. I won't read all of it, but some of it. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. 25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife also loves himself. And one of the key aspects there is giving himself up for her. Christ died for the church. You as a husband should be willing to die for your wife. So in both cases, you have mutual submission and willingness to serve. And if that's not the foundation of a relationship, I think it can get a little confusing. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think it can be confusing. And unlike being evangelical, Vance became a Catholic, and we're a little less pushy. I'm just saying we kind of know the slow roll of things.
Have you met evangelical Catholics?
Oh, yeah, I've met a few of them.
Yeah.
And they're strange.
They're very pushy.
Oh, absolutely. But
I have 8 books of Road to Rome, which is all about the evangelical converting to Catholicism. They're all about it, man.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Which I don't mind.
But the vast majority of us are just like, okay, can we see the bulletin here at the end? Because we need to know what's going on for school lunches this week, and who's sick. So basically, yeah. And also, if I need my fence repaired, there's a little ad in the back. It's kind of what we get. So much less pushy about it, but I understand that it does create some difficult conversations inside of the household, especially around divergent holidays. That's got to be somewhat difficult. And I remember friends of mine that grew up in a blended household and interfaith marriage when I was a kid, and how difficult it was for them to navigate the high holy days of either religion because there's this weird attempted balance to make them seem equal. And in a kid's eyes, they're never going to appear equal because in some way the family is going to embrace it or society is going to embrace it more than the other. And the example I have is, of course, my most direct experience are kids that grew up in an interfaith marriage between Jewish religion and the Catholic religion. And so all the little Jewish kids were so happy they got to celebrate Christmas because they didn't get as much stuff for Hanukkah. I'm not saying bad holiday. I'm just saying this was about stuff and stuff that was going to be given to you for free from relatives and friends and family. So in the balance of what they were doing, they would honor Hanukkah, but they were more excited about Christmas. And how do you do that approaching things like religion and Passover? And there's some other issues involved therein.
How do you teach
difficult.
kids what the truth is, too? I mean, at that point, religion just kind of becomes, something that you can pick and choose, kind of like you're at a buffet, right? So neither mom nor dad's really true. So just kind of pick up what you want.
Here's the thing is that, and this makes it more difficult, is that I came to a conclusion in my late teens that, and I forgot who it is that said it, but it made a lot of sense to me, is that there are many different paths up to the mountaintop. But once you're at the top, the view is always the same. And criticizing other people based on the path they are walking may not necessarily be in your best interest.
Yeah, but that's not Christianity, though.
Sure it is in some ways. Sure.
No. That's not what Jesus said. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not a way.
Yeah, I know.
But there's lots of ways to the Father. There's one way to the Father.
I know, but hang on a sec, though. But Christianity has a larger umbrella as far as the Protestants and the Catholics. So he did say he's the way.
Correct.
And yet we can talk about Lutherans and Baptists and Methodists and Catholics all walking a slightly different path, but we all end up at the same place on the mountain.
I think within Christianity, that's a fair statement. But among all world religions, that's not. But are you offended when people try to convert you?
I find it amusing.
Yeah.
In fact,
do you find it amusing?
Oh, hell yeah. I think it was amusing. In fact, I am one of the people that, again, because I had lots of extra time in college, that when the Jehovah's Witnesses would come over, we would invite them in and then try to get them to go to church with us. That was fun because all of a sudden it changed the entire conversation.
Yeah, I guess but when you say amusing,
Yes.
there's an element of like dismissal or
dismissal's fair. I mean, in all honesty, dismissal is fair because I am solid in the foundations of my faith. I know who I am, I know what I believe, and I know the path I'm walking.
I don't see you as somebody that's like laughs off somebody converting you. I think you.
Oh, no.
I see you as somebody that loves a good conversation about religion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I find it amusing that you're going to try to do this, but let's go, and we'll go back and forth and back and forth. It's just like it was amusing a couple of weeks ago. I'm at a farmer's market, and there's a dude sitting there behind a table that said Denver Post. And he came up and did his little marketing pitch to me. Fine. And then I said something back. No, not interested. And then he continued on his marketing pitch. And I'm like, ooh, this is a bag of worms you should not have opened. But okay, let's dance. and I ended up lecturing him about why his product sucks. So it doesn't go over well.
I think there's an element in this New York Times article about JD Vance where you have people that find it incredibly offensive that somebody else would try to win you over to their faith. Right? So they look at JD Vance and USA, and I'm sure like USA is like, oh, it's JD. It's the guy I married, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to have deep, I think she's a Yaley too. I think they're both Yaleys. So they're people that love like a good intellectual discussion. So I don't see her as backing away, being offended. But the New York Times, well, that's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible that he's trying to. And there's this great G.K. Chesterton quote, because Bill, you and I embrace this wholeheartedly. Yeah. Because you hear this oftentimes that engaging in politics or religion at the dinner table is offensive. And G.K. Chesterton once said, I never discuss anything except politics and religion. There's nothing else to discuss. So you and I would love and embrace and jump right into a wholehearted discussion as to whether or not Joseph Smith, for instance, is a continuation of the gospel of Jesus Christ or a distraction.
Yeah.
And we don't have any problem with that. And some of my best friends are Mormons, and I love to talk with them about it.
Here's how I'll make it more complicated. You're like dancing over the top, okay? I'm the kind of person that says, is Joseph Smith a continuation of, the stories that were told inside of the Bible? It's the next chapter in where Christianity goes, or is he closer to L. Ron Hubbard making up a story and selling books off of it?
Sure, right.
Yeah, that makes the conversation much more interesting. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying much more interesting.
And you and I were willing to have these conversations and have fun. And I'm not turned off by Mormon friends. I'm not turned off by my evangelical Catholic friends. By the way, the most of them was Rick Santorum, who would, anytime I drove him around, just dove right into my personal life in an effort to try to make me to embrace Catholicism. And what I just find interesting in this is this effort by the New York Times to make what is probably a perfectly fine conversation and relationship that JD Vance has with his wife into some type of political scandal. Yeah. I just want to go back to what he said. Here's what he said again, okay? Do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved by in the church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way I do, which is like half of my friendships with people that don't share the same faith. I wish they would see it my way. They wish I would see it their way. And
kind of a show.
It's a show, yeah, right.
In many ways. It's a show. So many ways.
Thorpe says his co-host hopes his co-host eventually embraces his worldview, sets off backlash.
Exactly. That's it. I think you're exactly right. This is much ado about nothing. And however, I do think that we have decided to delineate ourselves in some ways based on religion. And what worried me, and this is not necessarily fair, I'm taking this in another direction that you and I didn't talk about, but I thought what I don't think was fair is recently when Kash Patel talked about the Festival of Lights that's important for his religion, he got a lot of really mean response online. In fact, someone telling him to go back home and worship his sand demons and getting out of his country. Nikki Haley also shared the same message about the Festival of Lights, but doesn't share the same faith. She also got pushback about, that type of thing. That worries me in our society and in our discussions if we don't have that space for us to have that disagreement, because JD Vance inside of his marriage has a disagreement about faith, and they can manage it. Why can't we, as the average Americans, manage that sort of disagreement with the same grace and understanding?
Fair point. Although my critique of Jared Polis dressing up to honor Diwali was that it just reminded me so much of Michael Scott from The Office.
Thing for me is this is what I find, this is what I have a difficulty with personally, is if this is not something that is important to your faith, putting on any of the garments or trappings or anything of that faith and then trying to express some sort of understanding and brotherhood with that faith is a problem, because I see you as cosplaying. I see you as pretending. I think it is much more genuine. It's incredibly genuine, I think, for someone that is wearing the Catholic or Christian cross around their neck to wish their Jewish brothers and sisters happy Hanukkah than it is for someone to take off that cross, put on a yarmulke, hold a dreidel, and talk about happy Hanukkah. Stop cosplaying. Just be true. You can have understanding and not cosplay.
I was invited by our Mormon friends.
Yeah.
Sorry, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. They invited me to a religious freedom thing down at the state capitol, which was awesome. Cool. And I always appreciate them, and they're some of my favorite fishing buddies. But they, the speech I gave was
Repent, you heathens?
Well, at these interfaith things, we tend to try to get to like the lowest common denominator, right? Like, we are all humans and deserve respect. And I'm kind of like, all right, well, yeah, but I'm far more interested in having friends that I can passionately disagree with and be like, you are wrong in your analysis of who God is. This is who I think God is. and let's have this discussion and debate. So I'm far more interested in being able to passionately disagree with people and still maintain a friendship than I am this race to common denominator basic stuff. Like, I just don't find that interesting. I don't know.
This is what's weird about me, of course. If you start agreeing with a lot of things that I say, I find you uninteresting. I don't like that. I know that I'm wired differently, and I always have a little bit of skepticism when someone agrees with me way too much. I'm like, I know that this is not necessarily normal, and I know I see things more differently than the vast majority of the population of America. So when you start talking to me and saying, oh, this is right, I don't find it very interesting, and it makes me question, because I understand that some of the views that I have are possibly misconstrued and could even be wrong-headed, and that's okay. And I have modified a number of my positions and views over the course of my lifetime, and I'm open to doing it in the future. What I thrive on is the conversation. That conversation, having a conversation where we're all like, God, this is great. You know, the Broncos, yes, they're wonderful. You think the Broncos are going to the Super Bowl today? Oh, the Broncos are absolutely going to the Super Bowl. That's fantastic. Bo Nix is going to the Hall of Fame, right? Yes, the Hall of Fame. Is it going to be as good as Elway? Absolutely as good as Elway. That's boring. I mean, we might as well just stand around and compliment each other on how attractive we are and, you know, our sexual prowess. Because, I mean, seriously, guys, it's boring.
This is why Fort Lewis College should have approved Turning Point USA. Daddy, you wore the wrong hat, Bill.
As much as we argued this morning, I do agree with you. I just think they marketed it poorly. I just think he didn't understand the room he was walking into.
And we brought a 19-year-old on, and you ran a flood the zone system in your debate.
No, I didn't.
Making him defend Stephen Miller's wife.
No, I never asked for that. I never asked for the college student to defend that. What I asked the college student to do was comment on the critique of the individual asking for the votes wearing a MAGA hat in that room. That's what I was focused on. It wasn't a flood the zone. I didn't ask them to defend anything else on those statements, only the idea of walking into that room, looking for those votes, and having that hat on. How many votes does that win you in that room? If that wasn't the point, then don't complain when you lost the vote. That's my point. That's it.
And Bill, I only bring that up because we were agreeing too much.
I know. We were. Got to do something here.
All right.
What the hell's going on?
Let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. All right, we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots to talk about today. Bill, we got the Christmas lights on the house in an 80-degree day.
Dude.
Sunday's high.
Don't tell my wife that, because that means I got chores this week. I was able to
Sunday's
push that off this
high
week.
was 83 in Denver. I love some good global warming.
It was really nice. I loved being out there, and it gave me a chance to get all the leaves up off the yard, which is fantastic because I don't want to rake the leaves at all up until Halloween, because I think there's something sort of magical at night when you're a little kid. Yeah, the crunch, 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 crunch. I like that. And there's a memory tied to that from my childhood. So I like the idea that the kids have to go through the crunchy leaves, and I think it adds something to the memory they're going to take with them later on. And again, I could be totally stupid about this. That's why. It could just be me being lazy. I don't discount that one as well. But yeah, I was out there with the kids doing that one and got to meet the new neighbors. We got new neighbors coming in, and they're Ukrainian refugees. Came to the country 4 years ago, and absolutely incredible family. They just moved in about a week ago. We hadn't been able to see them yet, so we're out. They're out doing some yard work, so we got a chance to chat with everybody, and that was really, really cool. I'm looking forward to strengthening the relationship with that family because it looks really neat. But yeah, so you did Christmas lights. So tell us what you do at the hunt.
Well, I got to get them up before it gets cold because it's a high roof.
Oh, it's very high.
Slide right off that.
So which one of the is it Mrs. Jeff or is it yourself that's more of the Christmas person who leans into it harder?
I have no soul, so of course it's my wife.
See, I love Christmas.
I just knew I was going to have to do it, and the fact that I got to do it on an 83-degree day, the only complaint I had is that the roof was too hot.
Here's the thing.
But I'll take that any day.
Earlier in the Jeff and Bill show, we were talking about how to make a marriage work. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a marriage work. You understand what's important to the wife, and then you get it done on the best day possible, right after Halloween. So even prior to Thanksgiving, the chore is done.
I'm done.
That's how you stay happily married,
The only other thing I got to
kids.
do is cut down a Christmas tree for her.
Hey, that is
walk through the
freaking
woods with that.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's a tough one. We've transitioned to the artificial, which it's so much easier.
Bill, there's like 7 Christmas trees in my house.
Oh, dude, really? Wow. Yeah. I've managed to just
and I don't have that big of a house. Don't text in being like, Jeff's got a huge house. I don't have that big of a house. No, it's just one in every single room.
Yeah, it has to. You do that, you've got the themed rooms. Oh, my gosh, my friend. I'm so sorry about that.
You think George Clooney feels bad about writing that op-ed? Getting Biden out.
Here's the thing: I think he does now because he sees the fruits of his labor.
I know. Should have kept his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Didn't think that through, Georgie.
No, he didn't. But the other part is this: is that if Biden would have stayed in that race, oh my God, the only question is how badly would have been beaten. Because I would have put the over/under at the Mondale defeat by Reagan. That's where I would have gone. That's where it was started, because it was shaping up to be a shellacking. So it's not as if Clooney would have kept his mouth closed,
George
it would have
Clooney
been
led
better.
to the shellacking of a black woman.
Exactly. So that was it. It just what I think that at the core, poorly thought out, unrealized idea, and it was poorly executed, and they didn't think this whole thing through. But I bet he does have a lot of remorse about doing that so publicly, and because of the results that he ended up getting. Yeah, nobody's happy about that. That pushed for that. So, well, it was it is. But
I mean, what could you have done? Was it just Trump's anyways?
That's a really good question, and I wish we had more than like a minute to go into that. Honestly, we got to put a pin in that and come back to that on another day. What could have been? Let's, if we're like going back and we're doing the whole, we've got a time machine and we can go back and we can correct this flaw in the timeline. Again, I'm assuming that you think it's a flaw, Jeff, and I know you don't. But what could have happened? I'm not certain there's an easy answer. I think because of Biden's inability to recognize that he needed to step aside and that he had promised to be one term and to usher in the next, I think that's where everything went sideways. And because those around him didn't push him to honor that promise, I think that's where everything went bad. I think that's the original bear trap.
I agree with you on that. But like I've said all along, they set up Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
Kamala, they set you up. George Clooney kind of admitting to it now.
It could be. I wasn't there with you now, but again, hindsight being 2020.
I think they knew that nobody was going to win
my
that.
Friend. Yeah,
nobody was going to win that. That's why Shapiro didn't fight for it. That's why Newsom didn't fight for it. They let her go. It's always how the liberals treat those.
And speaking about learning things during the day, there are times I disagree with you, but I think there's more truth than I gave you credit for, my friend. I think you're more right than I
we'll
thought.
be back tomorrow. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.